Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what's probably the biggest fight in tech right now. It's all about how we find information, and it's a showdown between the undisputed king, Google Search, and the super-fast challenger, ChatGPT.
So let's kick things off with a number that pretty much defines our entire digital world.
Yeah, 8.5 billion times. That's how many times every single day people all over the world turn to Google to ask a question. I mean, think about that. It's just staggering. They are, without a doubt, the king of search.
Okay, now let's look at the Challenger, a platform that, didn't even exist just a few years back.
150 million. That's the daily query count for ChatGPT. Now, I know what you're thinking. That seems tiny next to Google's billions, right? But hold on, because this is where the story gets really interesting.
All right, so let's really break this down. This slide, right here, it just perfectly sums up the whole battle. You've got Google, this absolute giant with an insane 85 times more daily volume. But then you have the challenger, ChatGPT, which is growing at a speed that's just, well, it's unprecedented. It hit this scale about 12 times faster than Google ever did. It's a classic volume versus velocity story.
So, to really get what's happening here, you first have to respect the sheer size of the champion. We've got to take a walk through Goliath's kingdom, so to speak.
I mean, for more than 20 years now, Google hasn't just been some tool we use. It's become the default setting for how we find anything online. Think about it. They hold something like 92% of the entire search market. At this point, it's less like a company and more like a public utility, like electricity or water. And this timeline really shows you that journey. It was a long, steady climb. From launching back in '98, it took them over 5 years just to get to what you'd call a critical mass of users. It wasn't a sprint. It was a total marathon that ended in complete and utter dominance.
Okay, so that's the champion. Now, let's switch gears and look at the challenger, this disruptive force that basically showed up out of nowhere and just changed everything, almost overnight.
Okay, now this is what's truly mind-blowing. Look at this timeline. It's just hyper-compressed. 100 million users in 2 months. That's the fastest an app has ever grown. Ever. In history. Everything that took Google years and years of steady, hard work to build, ChatGPT basically did in the blink of an eye. It's just wild.
So when you put these two giants head-to-head right now, today, how do they actually stack up? Let's get to the tail of the tape.
This table lays it all out, doesn't it? I mean, look at the top. Google is just crushing it in terms of daily queries and monthly users. It's not even a fair fight there. But, and this is a huge but, look down at the bottom rows. ChatGPT is the clear winner when it comes to growth rate and just how fast it got big. And get this, the queries per user, it's a tie. That means people are just as engaged, which is a really, really important detail.
And this chart just drives that point home visually. It's not just a little faster. ChatGPT's growth curve is ridiculously steep compared to Google's, which is, more mature and steady. It really is like a rocket ship taking off next to a powerful but slow-moving freight train.
But here's the thing. This isn't just about who can answer what's the weather faster. This isn't a fight for the same old territory. What we're seeing is a fundamental shift in how we look for information and maybe more importantly, what kind of information we're looking for. And that brings us to this really key idea you need to grasp to understand all this. It's called search bifurcation. Sounds kind of academic, right? But it's actually super simple. It just means the whole market for search is splitting right down the middle. And here's the twist in the story. Google gets to keep the enormous volume of simple, everyday questions. Directions to the store. What time does it close? That kind of stuff. But ChatGPT is carving out this whole new space for itself, grabbing all the complex, deep dive, research-type questions. The ones that need a real answer, not just a link.
And you can see this happening all around us right now. Just think about it. A student might use ChatGPT to brainstorm and draft an essay, but then they'll jump over to Google to double-check the facts. Or a professional might ask ChatGPT to explain a really complex market trend and then use Google to look up a specific company they heard about. We're all kind of instinctively learning which tool is right for which job.
So, okay, if this split keeps happening, if this trend continues, what does the future of information even look like?
Well, if you look at its insane growth rate right now, some pretty solid projections show ChatGPT is on track to carve out a really significant chunk of this market.
I mean, 1 or 2% today might not sound like much, but getting to 5 or even 10% of all search queries by 2030, that is a massive disruption in a market that's been owned by one company for a quarter of a century.
And that really brings us to the main takeaway here. The thing to remember is that this battle isn't just about who gets the most questions, it's about the value of those questions. High volume is great for business for sure, but high-value queries, that's what really changes the game.
So what does this all mean for us? Well, it leaves us with this huge question about the future we're all walking into. The rulebook for finding information is being rewritten as we speak. Will the winner be Google or ChatGPT? Honestly, the answer is probably going to be both. But the balance of power and the very way we think about finding knowledge is shifting faster than ever.